In this video, I'm going to share everything I learned from Joe Dispenza to manifest my dream life, which took me from being a corporate lawyer, barely saving any money, to starting my own companies, making my first six figures in my mid-20s, and later negotiating multi-million-dollar deals. Now I've filtered everything down to what actually worked, not just theory, the parts I actually implemented, and I'll walk you through it step by step in the exact order I use them. I'm going to break this down into three parts. First, what's actually creating your reality right now? Second, what actually changes your reality? And third, how you use that to manifest your desires into reality. Now, your environment is what's actually creating your reality. When I first started learning about this, every single morning before I'd even gotten out of bed, I would, kind of start scanning. Like look at my bank balance and see how little was there, or think about the office I was about to drive to, or the case files on my desk which I had zero interest in. And I would even scroll through my phone for a few minutes, half watching, people my age post about businesses and success they've had. And I would just feel that small tightening in my chest. And by the time I actually got out of bed, I had already reaffirmed the exact same feeling I had woken up with the day before without ever once deciding to. And it's because the emotions, they remember the past, not the future. What I mean by that is, the feeling you wake up with isn't actually about today, it's a program built from something that had happened before, replaying itself. So you're not responding to your bank balance, you're responding to whatever you already decided your bank balance means. And for me, I saw this play out very clearly in the area of money. And I grew up in a very simple, normal, middle class environment. And somewhere along the way, I picked up this quiet belief that money was something you had to be careful with, that it could disappear the moment you stopped being careful about it. Now, obviously, I don't remember anybody sitting me down and teaching me this. It was just something in the environment which I had picked up, and it stayed with me for a long time. And I remember years later, I was making very good money, but that same tightening would still show up the second my bank account dipped a little bit. Not because anything was actually wrong, just because a number moved and some old program decided automatically what that meant. And that idea that your personality creates your personal reality is really the thread underneath both of those mornings. Different rooms, same programming. And that's exactly what was happening to me. I wasn't failing, I just kept trying to fix the outside, like fix the work, the bank account, without ever changing myself. And there's a distinction Joe Dispenza makes that actually took me a while to fully understand, not as a concept or theory, but really get it, which is that you're not your thoughts, you're not your beliefs. So if someone said something about you once, that doesn't make it true. The only thing that makes it true is if you decide to keep believing it. And the part I didn't understand for years was that you usually don't even remember deciding it. You just remember the sentence someone said, and somewhere along the way, it quietly became the sentence you say about yourself. I'll share something specific from my life because for me, that something was a report card. One line from a teacher which said, good, but can do better. 5 words, and in that exact moment, without realizing I was deciding anything at all, I decided that whatever I did, it would never be good enough. So for example, if I came first at something, I would just brush it off and say, I just got lucky. If I came second or third, not good enough, I should try harder the next time. It stopped mattering what actually happened. The meaning for that had already been made before the result had even arrived for me. And I just kept confirming it year after year without even ever going back to check if it was true. That one line, it followed me into money, into work, into how I showed up in room years later. And for the longest time, I didn't see it as a belief I had picked up. I just thought it was who I was. One thing that actually helped me see it clearly was that one day I sat down and I wrote down everything I had been quietly blaming, which includes my upbringing, that report card, the job I was in, the city, the country, my parents. I didn't organize the list neatly. I just kept writing it down until I ran out of things to write. And a lot of it was not easy to put down on paper because some of it felt like saying my deepest insecurities out loud. The kind of things that you don't even want to admit to yourself, let alone write it in your own handwriting where you can actually read it. But that's the point. You can't fix that what you don't acknowledge. And I had spent years denying most of it, pushing it down, just burying it, And that denial and that pushing it down is exactly what had kept me living the life I was trying to get out of. So I let myself write it anyways, whether I was comfortable or not. Now you don't need to keep the page, like you can burn the pages, you can throw it away, whatever you want afterwards. What matters is what happens while you're writing it, because whatever comes up, you let it come up. It is uncomfortable and that discomfort is fine. It's something about putting words to it and actually facing it instead of avoiding it is what lets it finally leave. And this isn't something I can just explain to you and have it land on the same way. You have to actually do it to understand what I mean. It's the difference between being told something and living through it yourself. Now, let's actually also talk about what changes your reality. And it's not more effort, it's not more discipline, it's identity. And that's what got me out of law, because I stopped seeing myself as someone who was stuck in a career I had chosen for wrong reasons. And I started seeing myself as someone who builds things. And once that shifted, I left the legal profession. I started my own company. I made my first 6 figures in my mid-20s. And from the outside, it should have been the finish line, right? But it wasn't, because even after making the first 6 figures I did, there was still this quiet feeling underneath all of it that maybe I just got lucky, or maybe I can't do this again. And I was still second guessing decisions. I was still hesitating on opportunities. I was still not fully believing I was belonging in the rooms I was actually sitting in. And the identity work I had done had gotten me to that level. It just had not gone deeper than that. And the distinction that explains why identity work is not a one-time thing is your body is actually your subconscious mind. So whatever level you're used to operating at, your body has essentially memorized it as safe. So the moment you try to move beyond it, your body reacts first before your mind even weighs in. Like your heart rate goes up, that unsettled feeling, not because something is wrong, because it's unfamiliar, and unfamiliar reads as unsafe to a body that doesn't know the difference. So when that reaction showed up, I had a choice, and for a long time, I didn't even realize I was making one. The choice was to treat it as a stop sign or just stay. Not do anything heroic about it, just not leave the room, the conversation, the decision, because my body had not caught up to who I was trying to become yet. Now I started thinking of it as just staying in the room. That was the whole technique. It wasn't anything more sophisticated than just staying long enough for unfamiliar to become familiar. And I remember one call which was over Zoom, not even an in-person meeting, with someone very senior to me, probably multiple times more experienced than I was. And in the hours before it, I was looking for any reason to push it, delay it, maybe come up with an excuse to just not be on that call. But I decided to be on the call, and the nervousness didn't go away just because I shown up. In fact, it was worse, like that, low grade level panic. It was just sitting underneath everything I was saying, and I was trying to sound calm when I didn't feel it. But I stayed on the call. I didn't end it early. I didn't fake like a bad internet connection. I didn't do any of the things I was tempted to do in the first 5 minutes. And somewhere around the 10 or 12 minute mark, without deciding to, I started to settle. And by the end of the call, I actually felt relaxed. I was genuinely connecting with the person on the other end, not performing calm, actually feeling it. The next Zoom call like that one was easier, not because the nervousness disappeared for good, it still showed up, but because some part of me now knew I could stay in it and come out of the other side absolutely fine. That is what I meant by staying in the room, not the absence of fear, just not leaving because of it. And the deeper the emotion tied to something, the harder it is to let go of. Because emotion isn't neutral, it's more like a rush. And the body, it gets attached to that rush the same way it gets attached to anything familiar, whether or not it's actually good for you. That's why the second identity shift wasn't automatic just because I'd already done it once. Familiarity doesn't ask if it's serving you, it just wants to stay familiar, unless you consciously interrupt it. So I did that work again deliberately, noticing the discomfort, not treating it as a stop sign, staying with it even when it had not caught up yet. And a few years later, I was negotiating deals worth millions of dollars for my own company. Nothing external needed to change first, my identity did twice. Now let's also talk about what this actually looks like in practice, and I'll also share the mistake I made early on which nearly made me give up on all of this completely, because whenever I was working on manifesting something, I would always be looking for signs that it was on its way. So I would do the identity work for a few days, I would feel good about it, and then I would start checking, did that email mean something? Was that a conversation, like a sign? Is it here yet? Is it here yet? And when nothing showed up fast enough, I would quietly conclude the whole thing didn't work. The actual practice, when I finally stopped checking for signs, was very small. A couple of minutes some mornings before I even reached out for my phone, just picturing the day I actually wanted instead of the one I was dreading. Nothing elaborate, I wasn't like scripting out the day word for word, but it was more like a short movie kind of a scene that I was visualizing. So for example, if I had a hard conversation ahead of me, I would picture myself walking into it steady instead of anxious. If I had a slow or an uncertain day at work, I would picture myself moving through it calm, unbothered by what had not happened yet. Some mornings it was as simple as picturing myself opening my laptop and not just dreading it. That was it. 2 or 3 minutes before the day had a chance to hand me its version of how I should feel. Now there's another distinction which actually works very well, which is you never feel lack when you're truly in the feeling state. For example, think about booking a vacation. The second it's confirmed, you don't sit around wondering if you're actually going, you just start preparing. There's no question in your mind, so there is nothing to check for. The moment you start checking for proof, you've already left the state and dropped straight back into scanning for what's missing. And that's exactly what had happened with something I wasn't even trying to manifest. So back when I was working as a lawyer, when I would have lunch breaks, I would sit with a colleague and scroll through social media and look at pictures and videos of people traveling, scuba diving, skiing down mountains. And I was living in New Delhi, India at that time. There's no skiing near Delhi. Nobody around me was at that time skiing. But there was just this one image I kept coming back to, which was a man mid-turn down a mountain in a yellow jacket, captured very close up. And I liked it enough that I actually set it as my phone wallpaper. That I think was the year 2017. And fast forwarding a couple of years, in 2020, I was skiing in Aspen and a bit later in Lake Tahoe. I wasn't wearing a yellow jacket, neither were the friends I was with, but standing on that mountain mid-run, it just hit me out of nowhere. That was the image, the exact one. I had genuinely forgotten that I had even set it as my wallpaper. I had not been checking on it. I had not been tracking whether it was working. I had just been looking at it almost absent-mindedly for years until it stopped feeling like someone else's life and started feeling like a description of mine. That's the difference. I wasn't like scanning for it to show up. I let it sit in the background long enough to become familiar without needing proof along the way. Now there's another piece of this Joe Dispenza connects to physics, and I'll keep it very simple because it's genuinely its own video. The usual way we think about getting things is cause and effect. So work harder, get more. But there is another way to look at it. It's not matter creating the outcome, it's your state creating the matter. So when your internal state actually matches what you want, you stop fighting yourself to get there. When it doesn't, you end up working twice as hard just to close the gap between who you are and what you're reaching for. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot in terms of brain waves, that when you deliberately slow them down through stillness, through meditation, the noise of the outer world drops away enough that your inner world starts to feel more real than it does. Now what it looked like for me was just sitting somewhere quiet, some mornings maybe 10 minutes, some morning 20 minutes, nothing that like needed a cushion or an application or a routine, not trying to force anything, just giving my brain the chance to slow down enough that the shift he's talking about actually had room to happen. Not through more effort, through less resistance. Now, if you're wondering where would you even start with any of this, you don't need to run all of the things at once. Just pick one. For example, it could be writing your own version of the blame list this week, not to fix everything on it, just to see it. That's it. That's the whole starting point, because everything else in this video works a lot better once you've done that one thing, because you can't change a program you've never actually looked at. So stop scanning at what's missing, because whatever you keep looking for, you keep finding. And there is also a complete manifestation framework Joe Dispenza teaches of how he actually manifests from start to finish. I've broken that down in a very detailed manner in another video. I will add the link in the description down below and on your screen, and I will see you there.